Grab a plunger, yes, a toilet plunger, and a small bucket or round container from the dollar store. Start by drilling holes into your plunger handle. Once your holes are drilled, use wire cutters to snip apart your greenery stems so you have individual branches. Now start inserting those branches into the drilled holes one by one, pointing them downward toward the base of the plunger. This helps create that natural tree-like shape. Next, grab your bucket and set your plunger inside. Give it a good plunge so it suctions right to the bottom. I added some vase filler rocks to completely cover up the plunger part, and once it's covered, it truly looks nothing like a toilet plunger anymore. Wild, right? You just made a gorgeous, perfectly shaped mini Christmas tree out of a dollar store plunger. This could be styled in so many ways around your home this season.
The holidays have hit the dollar store. Pick up 2 small tabletop evergreen trees. Line up the trees bottom to bottom, place some glue at connecting points of the trunks, and hold until dry. Once the tree connection is secure, fluff out the branches of the trees on both sides. Take your sparkly picks and connect them to the center of the trees using more of the wired green garland strips. Clip the foliage off the faux berry stems and arrange the berries into the branches of the trees. Once you find an arrangement you like, take your hot glue gun and secure them in place with a little glue. Grab some ribbon in a coordinating pattern and tie a simple bow by making 2 ribbon loops and tying them around each other to make the bow. Slide a piece of the wired evergreen strip through the back loop of the bow and tie the bow to the center of the swag. Take it a step further and glue your bottle brush tree, a Christmas tree ornament, and any other embellishment you like to the center of the swag. Hang your new swag vertically on your front door using a wired garland strip for the hanging loop. Add a festive Christmas patterned doormat and hang a tiny red stocking filled with Christmas candy from the door handle. Your newly Christmas decorated door is a perfect way to welcome all your holiday friends, family, and neighbors to your home.
I have this old shirt that I've had kicking around forever. I don't wear it anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it up into strips. I'm going to actually cut a little bit and then rip the strips so they have jagged edges. I have a bunch of other scrap clothing that I have and old dish towels laying around that I don't use anymore, and I'm going to cut those up as well. I'm going to cut them into strips. Starting with 11 inches, I want 10 of those, and then I'm going to work my way down to 5-inch strips. You want 10 of each size. So 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5. 10 of each. Then I'm going to take this old birch log and I'm going to drill a hole into the bottom, and then this old spindle, and I'm going to shove it right into the hole. It fits nice and tight, so I don't need any glue. Then I'm going to take my strips of fabric and I'm going to tie simple knots around the spindle. I'm going to make sure that I turn the fabric so that they're not all overlapping at the same spot, and I'm going to continue working my way up the spindle starting with the 11 inch at the bottom, going all the way up to 5 at the top. Then I'm going to finish this off with a nice Christmas bow, and I'm going to add a star at the top. I had this rustic star cut out, and I'm going to make it look old. So I'm going to paint it with brown paint, sprinkle it with cinnamon and nutmeg, and then continue this process over and over again until I have the desired look. I'm going to re-stipple with brown paint just to add some definition on the edges to make it look really old and rustic. Then once it's dry, I'm going to come in with this paint marker and I'm just going to add some primitive detailing around the edges. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and glue this onto the top of the spindle using some super glue. You want a lot of super glue at the top so it stays, and then secure it with a clamp while it's drying. This is the finished rustic primitive tree. I think this is so cute, and it is a great way to use up scrap material that you have laying around. I headed to Google and I printed out on plain computer paper some vintage looking Christmas sheet music. Then I used a jaggedy edge paper trimmer to cut some squares in varying sizes. So I had larger sizes, medium sizes, and then some really tiny squares. Then I took this little wooden cup that I had in my craft supplies, and then I drilled a hole into the bottom. I used a tiny dowel and secured it with a little bit of super glue and pushed it back in. Then I'm going to take my larger pieces of sheet music and then just using my drill bit, I'm just going to pre-poke a hole so it doesn't rip the paper, and I'm going to slide it down onto the dowel. I'm going to continue doing this for a couple times, and then I'm going to add in a little wooden bead in between each different size of sheet music. I'm going to continue doing this, working my way up from the bigger pieces all the way up to the smaller pieces with the beads in between. Once I get to the top, I'm going to finish it off with a wooden bead and then this little plastic snowflake. I'm going to add some glue to the back of the snowflake and as well to the dowel, and then secure it in place with a little clip just while the glue is drying. Then I'm going to come in with this tacky glue and a paintbrush, and just on the edges of the sheet music I'm going to add a little bit of glue, and then I'm going to sprinkle this diamond dust over top. This is going to add a nice little shimmer to the edges of the sheet music. I'm going to shake off the excess, and then this is the finished project. These are so cute and vintage, and they look so adorable here on my piano, and this is such an easy project that anyone can do. Using some thick canvas fabric, I'm going to cut out 2 triangles of the exact same size. I'm going to go ahead and take these 2 triangles and I'm going to glue them together right sides in. I'm going to be using Gorilla fabric glue. This stuff has a really strong hold. You could also sew this as well. You're going to go up and down the sides of the triangle and the bottom, but making sure to leave about a 3-inch gap in the middle of the bottom of the triangle. Then you're going to place the pieces together and you're going to use your hands to smooth out the glue, making sure there are no holes in the seam. Once the glue has had sufficient time to dry, you're going to flip it right side out and then use a pencil to push the tip of the triangle out. I have this old lace fabric curtain that I've had laying around forever. I'm going to cut out some detailing of the lace and I'm going to use my fabric glue again to glue it on to the triangle. I'm going to give this sufficient time to dry as well, and then once it's dry, I'm going to cut off the edges that are overhanging, and I'm going to come in with some cotton batting and stuff the triangle. You don't want to overstuff this. Then I have this old spindle that I'm going to just place in the middle, using the same Gorilla Glue fabric glue to seal the edges around the spindle. And then these are my finished fabric trees. I think these are so cute for Christmas and a great way to use up old scrap fabric that you may have laying around and old wooden pieces that you can use for the tree base.
The next time you're at the home improvement store, grab a plunger for this amazing Christmas hack. To start, I'm going to paint the rubber part of the plunger a bronze color. Now I want to start cutting up the old garland. I want to grab 4 to 6 little pieces of the garland and then use some wire cutters to snip the wire right below the clump of branches. In order to attach the branches to the plunger handle, I want to drill some little holes. With all of the holes drilled, I want to start attaching the little bundles of branches. I'm going to add a dab of hot glue to the wire before pushing it into the hole to keep everything secure. I'm going to keep working my way up the handle until all the bunches are secured into the holes. I also want to push one final bunch into the top hole of the handle. Now that the hot glue is all dry, I can fluff out my little tree and move the branches around until I have them how I like them. I'm completely in love with my little tree, and it's the perfect size to pop somewhere I need to fill a little space.